Let's be real for a second. Most objection handling advice online is so sleazy, it literally leaves online coaches feeling like shit. But what if there was a way to actually overcome objections that felt so good that your leads literally thanked you for selling them? I'm Connor Clark, and over the last few years, I have worked at the highest levels of the online coaching industry. I have taken thousands of sales calls. I have overcome every objection you can humanly imagine. And I've helped hundreds of other online coaches also close more clients without using any pressure, gimmicks, or highly manipulative sales tactics. And in this video, I'm breaking down my 6-step objection handling framework to help you overcome objections without having to feel sleazy. And if anything in this video resonates and you want direct coaching on how to implement it into your online coaching business, just click the link below and apply for a call. So when it comes to overcoming objections, the biggest mistake that online coaches make is they just don't clearly understand what the goal is of overcoming objections. They think the goal is to sell someone their program, and that's completely wrong. It's actually completely backwards. The goal of overcoming objections is to help the lead sell themselves into joining your program. Your job is not to make the decision for them. Your job is to help them make the best decision for themselves moving forward. And it's a subtle distinction, but it's an incredibly important distinction, because when you get to the end of the call, there really is like this line of pressure that kind of pops up. As soon as you tell them the price and a decision needs to be made, this is when objections start happening because of this pressure. But it's really important to understand that there's two types of pressure. The first type of pressure is extrinsic pressure. The second is intrinsic pressure. Extrinsic pressure is the pressure of outside forces on making a decision. Intrinsic pressure is the pressure that we put on ourselves to make a decision. Extrinsic pressure is bad. Intrinsic pressure is good. The mistake that online coaches make is that they focus really heavily on extrinsic pressure. And this is the pressure that doesn't feel good. This is the pressure that feels sleazy. This is the pressure that keeps you up at night. This is the pressure that leaves a bad taste in your leads' mouths, and hence why they don't turn up to follow-up calls, or they decide not to do this, or they literally send you an email complaining about you after the call about how horrible you are. It's because you've been putting outside forces on them, i.e. making them make the decision on the first call, not doing follow-up calls, doing discounts, using manipulative tactics, etc. What we really want is we want to guide people to make the best decision for themselves. We want to use intrinsic pressure. So when it gets to the end of the call, really the goal of overcoming objections is to hold people accountable, but you have to do it in the right way. You need to flirt with the line of pressure on the intrinsic side so that people feel highly motivated to do this on their own without ever crossing into the intrinsic side. The moment that you cross into this side of pressure, you've lost leads. This is when things feel sleazy. This is when things feel manipulative. This is when people feel forced to make a decision. So the first thing to understand is that your goal is to help them make the best decision for themselves. In order to do that, they need to have intrinsic pressure. So step 1 of overcoming objections and the first step of the closer framework is clarify. And there's 4 things specifically we need to clarify during this step. The first is the goal. Second is the context. Third is the intent. And fourth is the size. Clarifying the goal doesn't mean re-explaining to them what their goals are moving forward. What I mean by clarifying the goal is clarifying your goal in this moment, because it's not enough just to turn up to the call with the assumption that you are here to serve them. We need to let them know that we're there to serve them. See, the biggest mistake obviously is that people put extrinsic pressure. What we want to do is clarify our goal to them in this moment and say something along the lines of, my goal is to exclusively help you make the best decision for yourself moving forward. If that decision is not to join today, that is totally fine. Now, if the lead resonates with that and actually genuinely and authentically believes that you're just here to serve, you step into the role of a trusted advisor. You are no longer here as the salesperson. And a lot of the friction and conflict that we feel at the end of sales calls as online coaches is simply because the lead that we're talking to does not feel like we have their best interest at heart. And we've all been on the other side of that. We've all been in some sort of sales situation where someone feels like they're trying to get us to make a decision that serves their best interests. Don't do that. Don't be that person. Be the person that helps people understand that you're just here to serve their best interests. Now, if you clarify the goal in a way that they genuinely and authentically believe is in their best interests, what you essentially do is you kind of create a force field when it comes to this line of pressure. What I mean by that is if they genuinely believe that you are just here to serve them and help them make the best decision possible, there's literally nothing you can say that will cross this line. I was once on a sales call with a couple. The lady turned up to the first call, it was a follow-up call. And on the follow-up call, she turned up with her husband. I don't remember her name, so I'm gonna call her Susan and I'm gonna call her husband. We kind of got to a moment in the call where like she believed that I was here to serve her at the highest level, and she believed it because it was true. Like I just wanted to help her make a decision. I genuinely and authentically felt like we could help her, and the best decision for her was to join. Right at the moment of the decision, she turned to her husband and she said, "Husband, what should I do?" And in that moment, I had multiple choices. I could listen, I could let the husband interrupt, I could do all sorts of things. I felt pretty confident he was going to be supportive, so I could have just seen how it played out. But ultimately, I wanted to hold her accountable to the highest level of decision she could possibly make. So in that moment, I chose to interrupt and I said, "Husband, don't you dare answer that. Respectfully, this decision has nothing to do with you. Susan, correct me if I'm wrong, but you want to do this. Husband, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're 100% supportive of whatever she decides. And frankly, Susan, respectfully, it's not really fair of you to put this decision onto your husband because he has no context. He doesn't know what we spoke about on the first call. He doesn't know why you want to do this. He doesn't understand how committed you are to this. But correct me if I'm wrong, husband. You're 100% supportive of anything that she chooses." And he said, "Yes, obviously." Perfect. Well then, Susan, this is your decision. So what do you decide? Because frankly, if you put this up to him, you're no longer invited into the program. Now, if you wrote that down into some sort of script or some sort of objection handling advice, it doesn't land because it sounds horrible. And frankly, a lot of intrinsic pressure. Like I wasn't very nice in that moment. Caveat, sales is 100% how you say it, not what you say. But because she believed that I was genuinely just here to serve her best interest, and I had clarified that my goal was to help her make the best decision for herself, and she felt like I was a trusted advisor, not a salesperson in that moment, that landed perfectly. It was exactly what she needed to hear. She decided to join and went on to be a fabulous client. Now, the second thing we want to clarify in this moment is we want to clarify the context. Now, what I mean by this specifically is as soon as we get to this moment in a call and there's an objection present, what it really feels like a lot of the times is like we're kind of on two sides of a battle. And I know that's a bit extreme, but that's kind of what it feels like. It's us versus them and their objection. And I like drawing objections as monsters because they're monsters that pop up on the call. But this is kind of like this visual kind of accurately describes or displays like what it kind of feels like. And the first thing that we need to do in any battle is we need to understand the context. And what I mean by that specifically is we need to understand, are there any more objections? Maybe there's the timing objection. Or maybe there's the spousal objection. What we don't want to be doing is going into a battle with there being these sneaky objections that are hidden that we never even knew about. So first thing we do is we ask a question. Second thing we do after we clarify the goal is we clarify if there are any other objections that maybe haven't been present. So if they said that finances is the first objection, aside from the objection, is there anything else holding you back from getting started? No, anything at all. Sometimes you ask twice just to really dig and make sure there's nothing else holding you back. No, it's purely just the money. What we know then is we know exactly what we're up against. We're up against exclusively the money objection. Does that mean that ones won't pop up otherwise? They definitely could, but we've given ourselves the best chance to truly understand the exact objections that are holding them back from moving forward. The next thing we want to clarify is we want to clarify the intent. Now, what I mean by that specifically is we want to understand that if we were to overcome this objection, is it their intent to actually join the program? Because if it's not, frankly, what is the point of dedicating all of this effort and time to overcome the objection if you do and they don't intend to even join? So we'd ask a question along the lines of, if money wasn't an issue, or if this objection was irrelevant or it was solved or etc., it didn't matter anymore, would you be joining this program? If they say no in this moment, what's the point of continuing the call? They're not even going to join the program in the first place, even if we do. But if they do, what we have now created is we have got them to move from this side of the battle onto our side of the battle. And what this creates is a very nice 2v1 versus the objection. It's you and the lead working together to overcome the objection, as opposed to you butting heads, you versing them and the objection. Now, this is where we feel sleazy. This is where conflict happens, when we're really working against someone to overcome the objection. This scenario, where it's the two of you versus the one objection, feels very, very nice. This is where you work together to overcome objections. This is where leads thank you afterwards for helping them move past whatever this is. But this is ideally what we're looking to accomplish. The next thing that we want to understand is we want to understand the size of this objection. Why? Because if you're going to go to battle against anything, you want to know what you're going to battle against. Using the example of money, is this a $5,000 objection or is this a $1,000 objection? Is this a $10,000 objection? It's important to understand the size of the objection, because when we get into the the next step where we're actually overcoming objections, it's really important that we understand exactly what we need to use to overcome the objection. For example, if we're working with a really big objection, for example, and it's enormous, we're probably going to want to go to battle with a bazooka, say. But if the objection is really small, a bazooka is going to be overkill. So we really want to understand the size so we know exactly how it is that we're going to overcome this objection and do it in an appropriate way. The way that we understand objections is really just by asking questions about them, really going deep into really what is going on. If it's finance, for example, like if this was less money, would you do this? How much do you have available right now? Do you have access to credit? If this was half the investment, would you get started? We really just want to really understand the objection by asking questions, to be really curious and just learn everything we possibly can about it. Step 2 of the closer framework is logic. Now, this gets down to understanding that ultimately when it comes to purchasing online coaching programs, they really make the decision and decide to do this emotionally, but they justify that decision logically. And oftentimes when an objection is present, it isn't because they don't want to do this, and it isn't because they've emotionally decided to move forward. It's that there's some sort of logical reason that is holding them back from fully committing. For example, they may be 100% committed, but for whatever reason, they don't have the money. There's some sort of logical financial restrictions. Maybe they logically need to talk to their husband. Maybe logically they're going on vacation for the next 3 weeks, so they need to wait about it. Maybe there's some sort of logical reason that is holding them back. So first thing to understand about overcoming objections is that people purchase and decide to do this emotionally. They justify that decision logically. Objections pop up when they haven't been able to logically justify the decision to move forward. Therefore, overcoming objections, the most useful tool that you have is to logically reframe the objection from it being a reason not to join, but being a benefit for them to join. The way that we logically reframe objections is broken down into 4 different categories. First is analogies, second is metaphors, third are stories, and fourth are solutions. So when it comes to overcoming objections, we want to logically reframe using one of those 4 categories, the objection, so that it seems like a distinct benefit for the lead moving forward. Examples of this are, say, some sort of timing objection pops up where they say they want to do this in a couple of months' time. A logical reframe for the timing objection that frankly I've used to make hundreds, potentially even millions of dollars at this point is the best time to plant a tree was 1,000 years ago. The next best time is today. Now for me, this falls into the category of an analogy, and it's also a very colloquial and commonly known, a known kind of like analogy. It's probably not the first time that you've ever heard it. But when someone gives you a timing example, really helping them understand that like, yes, you can start in 3 months' time, but the best time to do this is today, because otherwise you'll be in the exact same position you were in 3 months as you are right now. And that's not what you told me you wanted. So that works really well to reframe the objection of waiting 3 months. Another example would be finances. So say that they have, I can't do this for financial reasons. I don't have the money. A logical solution based reframe, payment plans, or utilizing credit, or financing the objection in some sort of way. But these are all solutions to the fact that they don't have money, and reframe the objection. Another fantastic one is maybe fear. Maybe they have some sort of fear-based uncertainty objection. They're terrified to make the decision because it's a big decision. Well, an objection handle that I've used really, really well in this particular category is a personal story. And I like to frame it as a benefit. I like to say something like, so this is a huge decision and it's scary. Amazing. That usually throws them off a little. Why is it great that I'm terrified? Our best clients are the people that take this decision seriously and put in the work. The fact that you feel terrified to make this decision, if you do decide to join, I just know that you're going to do the work to be an incredible client, because you're going to take this incredibly seriously. I know that for a fact because, story, when I was sitting on a plane moving from Australia to Canada, I was terrified. It was the biggest decision of my life. Now I had 2 options. I could run off the plane and never move across the world, or I could embrace the fear and move forward. Because I embraced the fear, and because it was terrifying, and because I had to make it work, I've now been able to build the life that I have, and it's the best decision that I ever made for myself. People resonate with that story because they all have their own version of making a significant decision and it being something that works out, as opposed to running away from hard decisions. Those are basically 3 really simple, logical-based reframes to overcome objections that, frankly, my clients have collected millions and millions of dollars of online coaching programs, helping people move past using logic. The final step of logically reframing objections is going to sound really silly, but it's actually just asking them to make sure that you have reframed it and you have moved past it. Something like, does that make sense? Do you see how that would work? Like some sort of simple question, just for them to commit that this ultimately has been reframed and they have overcome the objection, is incredibly important, because you never just want to assume that you have overcome the objection, because oftentimes you may not have. Like countless times, that story of me moving from Australia to Canada didn't land for a particular lead, and I had to try the same kind of tactic in a different way to help them see why that wasn't something that should hold them back. But you always want to ask just to make sure that you overcome the objection. There's no point doing all the hard work and then not just confirming that you did it right. The third step in the closer framework is to offer. Now, there's two mistakes people make when they get to this point. Firstly, they forget to offer. and secondly, they offer too aggressively. This is going to sound really silly, but I have seen countless sales reps, online coaches selling their coaching programs do all of the hard work to clarify the objection, to logically reframe the objection, to help them ultimately move past what's holding them back and help them make the best decision for themselves. And then they don't make the sale because they just forget to offer. They forget to ask for the sale. So it's really important when you get to this moment that you ultimately offer the person to join, you ask them to join, because if you don't, they're not going to buy. No one's ever bought anything without being asked to buy. People don't just spontaneously take out their wallets and give you money. So we have to ask. So firstly, don't forget to offer. Secondly, don't offer too aggressively. What we really like to do when it comes to offering is we like to do a trial offer. Something like, how does that feel? The reason we do this is because it's the difference between dipping your toes in the water and just jumping straight in. When you jump in the water, when you officially make an offer to join your program, when you go for the ask and you ask for the sale, you want to be 99% sure they're going to say yes, because if they say no, it's borderline impossible to help them decide to say yes when they've already made a decision not to join. Because if you ask and they say no, they are officially deciding that they do not want to do this. They are making a decision. It's very unethical and very sleazy to then try and like work your way back into it to help them say yes or help them to decide to say yes. So if we're going to ask, we want to be very sure they say yes. So hence why we do a trial offer. We dip our toes in the water first before jumping in. How does it feel? It's feeling incredible. If everything seemed positive, then you can jump in. If the water feels good, then you can jump in. And the way we would jump in is essentially something like, are you ready to get started? Yes, I'm ready to get started. Then we would move on to the next step. The next step in the closer framework is secure. And what I mean by this specifically is securing the funds. I have seen many sales and a lot of money be lost simply by online coaches not securing the payment for their program on the call. In this moment, when people are on the call, they are in a decision-making state of mind. They have turned up to the call, they are committed, they've made the decision to do this. Do not let them slip out of this moment, go away on their day, go into an argument with their child, or go start making dinner or folding laundry, because ultimately they decide to do this and their decision will wane. We want to capture this momentum on the call and secure the funds and ultimately secure the decision by them processing the funds. Now, this can look in multiple ways. It ideally just involves them committing, processing the payment in whatever way that looks like for your business. But we want to make sure that we secure the funds. The moment that you have secured the funds, frankly, you've overcome the objection because they've decided to join. And they've joined. But the next step in this to take this to the next level is expectations. Now, once someone's ultimately processed the funds, frankly, and you've secured payment, their objection has already been overcome. I wanted to include these additional 2 steps in this video so that you know exactly how to continue this process to onboard people perfectly into your program and really not miss steps. So think of the first 4 steps in this framework as how you overcome objections. Think of the final 2 as bonuses to do this to a ridiculously high level. We really want, through the expectation setting, like portion of this call, to set the expectations as to how to not refund for the program, frankly, and set the expectations as to how to be an incredible student in your program. The way that we limit refunds is in 2 ways. 1, we set the expectations as to what is going to happen next, so that they know logically what to expect once the money's been processed. Like maybe you have some sort of terms of service they sign, maybe you have an email you send, how they get onboarded, maybe there's an onboarding call they need to register for, but we want to set those expectations. A lot of refunds happen just because people aren't really sure what happens next after they've given you a lot of money. The second thing is we want to limit buyer's remorse, because once someone makes a significant decision to join your program, oftentimes they leave the call, they go home at night, they're lying in bed, and all of a sudden they're like, what the fuck did I just do? They have a big moment of terror. So we want to limit buyer's remorse by letting them know and setting the expectations that emotions after this decision are frankly going to be normal, and setting them as like normalize the expectations of buyer's remorse so they're less likely to reach out to you afterwards and request refunds. Second thing we want to do is we want to set clients up for success, because we want clients to be incredible clients. We want everyone in your program to be successful. It makes the entire experience better, and it makes your program and your business better. So how do we do that? We set the expectations of the key things clients need to do to be incredible clients. And frankly, they boil down to 3 things. 1, it comes down to consuming the training. Maybe your training is in some sort of steps, so setting the expectation to follow the training in steps. But we really want to set the expectation of like, hey, 1, do the work. 2nd, we want to set the expectation of asking questions when they're stuck instead of burying their head in the sand, because best clients, they ask questions. The 3rd, we want to set the expectation that they don't quit when this gets hard, because every transformation, every online program has challenges. It's one of the only guarantees when they join is that they are going to be challenges. We want to set the expectation that in order to be successful here, you don't just quit when things get challenging. You continue to do the work and plow forward. And frankly, doing the work, asking for help, and not quitting is how you're successful at anything. But we want to set the expectations with clients as they enter into the program so that every single person knows exactly how to be successful. The final step of the closer framework is referrals. And again, this has nothing to do with overcoming objections, but I wanted to include it in this video because it's a massive missed opportunity by online coaches. The best time to ask for referrals are at the moments of a significant win and at a moment of significant excitement. When someone decides to finally join your program and finally get help for potentially a problem or challenge in their life that they've been struggling with for a significantly long time, 1, it is a highly significant win. And secondly, it's significantly exciting for them. This is a fantastic time to ask for referrals. And if you're not asking for referrals for every single client that you enroll into your program, frankly, you're leaving a significant amount of opportunity on the table. There's 2 ways to ask for referrals. Only one is right. 1 is asking, do you know anyone that would be perfect for this program? This is the incorrect way to ask because it's too easy to say no to. Do you know anyone? No, I don't know anyone. We move on. The correct way to ask for referrals is, who do you know who would be perfect for this program? This is a way of asking the exact same question that is much harder to say no to or to shut down, because who do you know cannot be answered with a no, I don't know anyone. Who do I know? I know this person and this person and this person. If you ask it in this way, you'll be significantly more likely to get referrals, and referrals are some of the best leads you'll ever have and will help you significantly grow your business. This moment when someone has made the decision to join, when you have overcome the objection and they are entering your program, is a fantastic moment to ask for referrals. So that's the 6-step closer framework to ethically and authentically overcome objections in a way that doesn't leave you feeling manipulative, sleazy, and keep you up at night. If you do this correctly, you will have clients literally thank you for helping them make the decision to join. Personally, I literally have friends who I have helped overcome objections and sold on sales calls, and we still connect regularly to this day. So if you do this right, you're going to enjoy sales calls significantly better. And if this is something that's resonated, and frankly, you'd like to go deeper into how to actually scale the sales of your online program to make more sales, but do it in an authentic way that actually feels low pressure and enjoyable, consider joining Sales Hub. There's a link in the description. You can schedule a call or apply for a call, and we'd love to connect and see if this is the right place for you and if this could be a community or a program that could be beneficial to you. And if you're looking for all of my secrets on selling online coaching programs, I made my ultimate training. It's everything that I know about selling coaching programs in 2026. If you click this video, you can go watch that next.